Here is something I find genuinely exciting to say as someone who has spent 11 years watching conventional gastroenterology struggle with IBS. The science has caught up. The research that validates everything I do in my practice is now being published in mainstream journals, presented at major medical conferences, and slowly making its way into standard of care. The future of IBS treatment is arriving. If you're watching this channel, you're already ahead of it. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the 5 trends reshaping how IBS is understood and treated, what the research shows, what it means practically, and why the approach I use with clients today is already where mainstream medicine is heading. For decades, women with IBS have been told to wait. Wait for better treatments, wait for research. That waiting has come at enormous cost. The waiting is over, the research is here, the tools exist. The only question is whether you know about them and where to access them. I'm Aneliya, a board-certified PA with 11 years in gastroenterology and holistic gut health. The convergence between what functional medicine has been doing and what the mainstream literature is now validating is one of the most exciting developments I've seen in my career. 5 trends, what the research shows, what it means practically, and what it tells us about where gut health treatment is going. Trend number 1, microbiome testing is becoming the standard of care. For years, the comprehensive microbiome assessment was considered the domain of functional medicine, outside the mainstream, viewed with skepticism by conventional gastroenterology. This is changing rapidly. What the research now shows, the gut microbiome is increasingly recognized as a primary driver of IBS symptoms, not a secondary factor. Specific microbiome signatures are being identified that correlate with IBS subtypes. Microbiome-targeted interventions specific to individual profiles are producing results that generic probiotic supplements cannot. Major academic medical centers are establishing microbiome research institutes and beginning to integrate comprehensive stool analysis into gastroenterology practice. What this means practically right now? The comprehensive stool analysis I've been running for years is now being validated at the research level as appropriate investigation for IBS. Women who access this testing now through functional medicine practitioners are receiving care that mainstream gastroenterology will be offering as standard in 5 to 10 years, I really hope. The data from individualized microbiome testing is the foundation of personalized treatment protocols that produce consistent results. The testing I use with every IBS client is not alternative medicine. It is early adaptation of what the mainstream will be doing within a decade. The difference is that my clients don't have to wait a decade. I have clients who come to me after being told by their gastroenterologist that comprehensive microbiome testing wasn't necessary or validated. Those same clients now have test results that explain every symptom they've experienced for years, and protocols built around those results are producing real outcomes. The validation is coming. The results don't wait for the validation. Microbiome testing is moving mainstream. The second trend is even more significant because it changes the fundamental way IBS is classified and diagnosed. Trend number 2. SIBO is being recognized as a driver of IBS. This is the trend I find most clinically significant because SIBO recognition in mainstream gastroenterology is the single change that would most dramatically improve outcomes for the largest number of women currently suffering. Where the research stands. Multiple studies have found that a significant proportion of IBS patients, estimates range from 30 to 80%, although I think it's higher, have underlying SIBO. The research establishing the connection between SIBO and IBS specifically is now robust enough that major gastroenterology guidelines are acknowledging it. Research into the mechanism connecting SIBO to IBS symptoms is producing a coherent, evidence-supported model of how IBS actually develops. What this means for women with IBS right now? If you have been diagnosed with IBS and never had a SIBO test, you have not had a complete investigation by the standard the research now supports. Asking for a SIBO breath test by name is increasingly reasonable within conventional settings. Treatment of SIBO through specific antimicrobial protocols, both pharmaceutical and herbal, is becoming more standardized and evidence-supported. One caveat to that is, again, finding the root cause. SIBO is not the root cause. Why these pathogens are in the small intestine in the first place is the root cause. And not addressing that is why most patients treated for SIBO improve for a short time and then symptoms come back. Because the mechanism of how these bacteria get there in the first place was never addressed. The connection between SIBO and IBS is not a functional medical hypothesis. It is an increasingly mainstream clinical finding. The women who have been told their colonoscopy was normal and it's just IBS deserve a gastroenterology community that is current with this research. The shift I've seen in the last 3 to 4 years is how SIBO is discussed in the medical literature is significant. When I started ordering SIBO testing routinely, it was considered outside mainstream practice. Now I see it referenced in gastroenterology review articles, discussed at conferences, and increasingly included in diagnostic guidelines. SIBO recognition is coming to mainstream medicine. The third trend addresses something even more fundamental, the end of the one-size-fits-all treatment. Trend number 3, personalized medicine is replacing one-size-fits-all protocols. The broader movement towards personalized, precision approaches, treatments built around individual biology rather than population-level averages, is arriving in gut health in a particularly meaningful way. What personalized gut health means in practice? Treatment protocols built around individual test results rather than diagnostic category. Recognition that 2 patients with an IBS diagnosis may have completely different underlying causes requiring completely different interventions. Dietary recommendations based on what an individual's specific microbiome and digestive function actually need. Treatment sequencing built around what specific imbalances found on testing required. What this means right now, the individualized approach I use, test first, build protocol around findings, adjust based on response, is exactly where the field is heading. Women who access this level of individualization now are receiving care that the broader medical system will hopefully offer as standard in the future. Although the entire medical system will likely have to be rebuilt because you simply cannot do that for a patient in a 15-minute visit, which is what we currently have in Western medicine. The future of IBS treatment is not a better version of the same generic protocol. It is a completely different philosophy, one that starts with the individual and builds outward. The philosophy is already available. It is what I do every day. Personalized medicine is the future. The fourth trend addresses an area of gut health that has historically been under-supported and is particularly relevant for the women watching this channel. If these trends are making you realize that more sophisticated help is available right now than what you've been accessing, hit subscribe. I put out videos every week on what's actually working in gut health and how to access it. Now let's cover the final 2 trends because these are the ones that will most change the conversation around IBS in the next few years. Trend number 4, the gut-brain axis is moving from theory to clinical application. The gut-brain connection has been discussed in wellness spaces for years, sometimes with more enthusiasm than evidence. That is changing. The research is now producing findings significant enough to reshape how IBS is both understood and treated. What the research now shows? The entire nervous system, containing approximately 500 million neurons, operates largely independently and is in constant bidirectional communication with the brain via the vagus nerve. Disruptions to this communication produce both gut symptoms and neurological symptoms: brain fog, anxiety, mood dysregulation. The microbiome directly influences neurotransmitter production. Approximately 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Interventions that support vagal tone and parasympathetic activity have measurable positive effects on the gut motility, permeability, and symptom severity. What this means practically? The emotional and psychological components of IBS are not separate from the physical ones. They are the same system. Nervous system support is not a soft add-on to gut health treatment. It is a core component of a complete protocol. The feeling of being emotionally depleted, anxious, and mentally foggy that many women experience alongside gut symptoms is not a psychological response to being sick. It is a physiological consequence of the gut imbalance itself. When we address the gut correctly, we bring the entire body back into alignment, including the nervous system. The gut-brain axis is becoming clinical reality. The final trend is one that will eventually affect how every IBS patient in the world is diagnosed and treated. Trend 5. The future of gut health is data-driven, individualized, and already here. The convergence of microbiome research, functional testing, precision medicine, and gut-brain axis science is producing a model of IBS care fundamentally different from what conventional gastroenterology has offered for decades. And the tools that make this model possible are available now. What is already available today that wasn't available a decade ago? Comprehensive stool analysis with microbiome mapping, inflammatory markers, digestive function assessment, opportunistic infections like SIBO, and gut lining integrity markers in one panel. Herbal antimicrobial protocols with evidence comparable to pharmaceutical antibiotics for SIBO or other infections with fewer side effects and lower recurrence rates. Individualized dietary protocols built on microbiome data rather than population-level guidelines. Gut lining repair protocols using specific nutrients that support tight junction integrity and mucosal healing. Where this is heading in the next 5 years? Mainstream gastroenterology will either have to get with the program of treating root cause, or it will lose many patients who have now understood that IBS and functional gut issues can be fixed. The conversation will shift from managing IBS to treating and resolving IBS. The future of IBS treatment is not coming, it is here. The gap is not in the science, it is in access. The women who know where to look are already living in that future. My prediction for IBS treatment in 5 years: comprehensive microbiome assessment replaces the generic eat more fiber recommendation. Individualized treatment protocols replace one-size-fits-all supplement and dietary approaches. The majority of women with IBS who receive the right investigation and protocol resolve their symptoms within 6 months. The word chronic is used less and less in the same sentence as IBS. Tonight's test: write down 3 things you now understand about the future of IBS treatment that you didn't know before this video. Next to each one, write what it means specifically for your own situation, your own investigation, your own next step. The gap between where gut health care is going and where you are right now is not a gap you have to wait to close. The tools exist, the testing exists, the practitioners who know how to use them exist. I spent 11 years inside a system that was not designed to heal IBS. I watched it fail women who deserve better, not because the practitioners don't care, but because the tools weren't there and the framework wasn't built for it. What I know now, and what the research is increasingly confirming, is that those tools exist. They work, and the women who access them recover. That is not a future possibility, that is a present reality. The future of IBS treatment is arriving, and I intend to make sure as many women as possible don't have to wait for it to find them. If you want to make sure you're not making the mistakes that keep most women stuck, I made a video covering the 5 most common IBS mistakes I see every single week. What each looks like, why it happens, and exactly what to do instead. It's the perfect companion to everything I've covered in this series. That's the one to watch next, linked in the description and on your screen now.